Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Series with Kevin, where we add value to people's lives, happening every day at 12 on ebuzzradio.com. Today we have the wonderful Robyn Shirley, who's one of the program managers at Regenesys. Robyn, welcome to Lunchtime Series.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm a huge fan of the Lunchtime Series, so great to join you today.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you could be here because you and I we've got some history.
We do. We have some history. We go way back.
I was just looking at some of the time that we've actually been working together. I'm like, you've been working around creating and developing programs and really having an impact on human capital in such a big way. But I mean, you've been doing it forever. From way back when.
It does feel like forever. It does feel like forever. And I think it's such an exciting space because, like you say, you can impact human capital. And, with everything, changing within this space in terms of pandemic, the impact, it gives you such an opportunity to start, influencing people's journey, even if it's in a small way. And I think that's why we're so passionate. If you're in learning design, you kind of get this kind of rush of being able to kind of do that for people, which is really exciting.
So, I mean, just to give people sort of a bit of background on who you are, what you do, where you are, and a bit of that experience, just to emphasize more.
Sure. So I am an instructional designer at heart, which really means I kind of bring learning to life based on the needs, based on where people need to go and what people need to achieve. I've done the role in various forms throughout my career. So I started at a very exciting company that used picture-based learning as a means to do that, where we created visuals to bring the learning alive, which was really exciting. And then I worked for corporate for a long time, consulting to corporates, different banks, different telecommunications. And then I joined Sun International for a long time, where I was able to work on setting up the academies within the Sun International structure, which was really exciting, where our paths crossed at first. And subsequent to that, I've moved on and joined Regenesys Business School as heading up the kind of program design for customized learning, which is really exciting because it allows me to go between creating open enrollment courses based on the needs on, like you say, learning trends, whatever's happening within the space, but also customized to organizations who are really looking to build that leadership pipeline, or as we're seeing now, a lot of work being done in the specialist pipeline as well. So it's really exciting to be in touch with what's going on, how people are viewing learning, because a while back we used to speak about the learning organization and the learning culture and, how organizations are able to do that. So it's always great for me where I think I'm at quite an advantage because I can have my it's my touch points across different aspects, different areas. I'm not confined to one space.
Yeah, and I mean, I was looking at some of the trends happening on Forbes.com, and I always use them as a reference because they have really up-and-coming information all the time. And some of the trends to watch out for 2021, they speak of one of the first things that's happening, and people, from a learning perspective and from really supporting the human capital in your environment is rapid reskilling. And that's the first one they speak about. Then they also speak about performance over skills, how well people are performing over skills that they have. And then they look at corporate learning will become an everyday thing. They also say that integrating virtual with digital, which has become such an obvious go-to for us. And then also learning designed by data. I mean, is that something you take into consideration? Because one of the questions that we have here is how do you formulate solutions? Because from a person's perspective of like, okay, cool, this is the issue, this is the struggles we're having. How are you noticing trends like these sort of impacting how you guys are putting information together? Because I think that's it must speak to quite a lot of how you do it. Like you have to see what's happening in the world.
Absolutely. So I think it always comes down to a need, right? So someone will always come to us and say, This is the need we've identified. But part of the role and part of putting something like this together is really getting your head around whether that is the need. Because often what we think it is, it's being someone's opinion, it's someone's perspective, it's someone's view. So it's quite a lot of research, understanding what that need actually is based on the sort of brief, based on the information you're given at first. And in order to do that, you've got to see the person, you've got to see the holistic individual. And that's what I love about being part of Regenesys Business School, is their view of the individual as a whole being. So it's about seeing that person as a whole. And then, like you say, what environment does that person find themselves in?
I just want to interject there. Sorry, Robyn, but when you say whole being, and I think just to clarify, because I think, people go, yeah, obviously you're a whole being, but
yeah, what does that mean? So
tell us more, because I think that's such a big point.
So, I mean, it's absolutely beautiful, because when we talk learning, obviously you're talking about someone's knowledge, someone's IQ. You're looking to impact their knowledge, make them learn a new skill, maybe try something new. It's very much focused on knowledge, focused on the brain, focus what we would typically call your IQ. Seeing the individual as a whole, going, what other aspects, what other quotients, other than your intellectual quotient, are available to the average person? Next biggest one, which is probably the most important one, is your EQ, your emotional intelligence. What is that? How do you show up? How do you deal with everything? Next up, which I am absolutely a huge fan of and have done a lot of work on, is your spiritual intelligence, your SQ. Now, what does that mean? For a lot of people, it may link to a religious belief. It may link to how they find their faith playing into their lives. But for a large part, when we speak SQ, we're actually speaking about your spiritual intelligence, which is your purpose. Why do you get up in the morning? Why do you do what you do? And the why should we care kind of element comes into that as well, being confident to know your purpose.
Yeah.
But then, this whole beautiful soul's encased in a body. So your physical intelligence becomes a huge thing. How do you take care of yourself? How are you nourishing your body for that brain to work, for you to be able to do what you're passionate about, for you to continue to find your purpose? Your financial intelligence. I heard some horrific statistics on the way to work today about South Africans and how much we spent on debt. But your financial intelligence eats into all of that, And then lastly, there's a lot of research. I hope I haven't missed out any of them, but there's a lot of research now on your network intelligence. So how are you able to connect? How are you able to build relationships within your organization, without your organization, in both your personal and professional life, to be able to contribute to all these things? So that's what we really mean when we look at the person as a whole. There's a lot going in there, and you can't actually separate them out. They are so integral to you being who you are and being the best version of yourself.
Absolutely. And, I'm just looking at, that rapid reskilling kind of that they're talking about on Forbes.com. Guys, I'll also showcase and share this link with you in the description box in the video. So if you want to go and check it out, I will share it there. But on that rapid reskilling, I mean, you and I worked on a project for Momentum in, from a LinkedIn and upskilling or reskilling them in just that awareness on getting their brand on board. There's so many areas that we've actually, you and I've had, fortunate opportunities to work in. And we've also done, the work at Momentum with resilience around the resilience campaign. What was your thinking behind that? Because, I mean, you point out now, taking the whole person into consideration when you're doing. And so what was the impact, and how did you sort of put that together?
So that's an interesting one. And that's a classic example of that rapid reskilling, because, looking at the need, looking at what we were getting from our client there was a bit of a barrier to moving sales within this particular organization to a more online space. For people, we're having a barrier, having their actual identity, who they are, their purpose out in the whole of social media. And there was a number of factors as to why that existed, right? But for us, in terms of rapid reskilling, was to come and create a program, create a journey that could push that quick, sharp kind of rethinking, remodeling, relooking at something and build up the skill as we went. So in that particular example, we use really short, sharp, weekly 1-hour sessions, which really was, let's break down some of these barriers. Let's introduce you to this world of LinkedIn, but let's start teaching you how to use it purposefully, how to understand it. What is it going to do? So we had these beautiful, short, sharp kind of bursts on a weekly basis that kept that momentum, that people started to build that kind of trust. Okay, I get what you're doing. I get what you're saying. So for us in designing, and similarly on the resilience piece, it was like, what is needed here? And how can we respond in a way that's going to give people the practical applications that they need? Because it comes down to, can I take something from this learning and actually make it work in my world? I mean, we don't want to leave something go, that was great training, great facilitator, had great lunch back in the day when it was face-to-face, but what can I do with it now? Now is really about, how can I see it making an impact? And I think the LinkedIn one is a beautiful example where we saw suddenly people building their online personas, like tapping into a part of them that they hadn't before, because of those various barriers, because of that various kind of uncertainty about it, start seeing the difference that could make to their career, to their approach, to their purpose, to their why, and also seeing the excitement. I mean, I don't know, that I sit and watch in the background and I get goosebumps because I'm such a nerd, but seeing people become excited about things like that, when they start seeing the difference it makes, and that kind of energy that you're able to create with people, that becomes really important when we talk about that quick, sharp sort of, rapid upskilling, which is so critical right now.
So, guys, if you've just joined us, we're chatting to Robyn Shirley, program manager from Regenesys Business School. And Robyn, one of the things that's, just your viewpoint and your insight from, what it is you do and how you do what you do. One of the benefits of investing in human capital, and it's one of the links that I'm also going to be sharing online, is increasing employee satisfaction. How have you noticed, like dealing with, because you guys have got really big clients. I'm fortunate to be, part of working with Regenesys every now and then. So like when you do that, how are you noticing how that's influencing the employee satisfaction?
So I think employee satisfaction is a major part of, investing in human capital. When you invest in some of these learning journeys, I mean, they're quite extensive. They're not easy. They take a lot for the individual. They take a lot for the organization. And you would know, working on one, even as a faculty or a thought leader, it takes a lot for you to also position that. So it really is an investment in the individual. And I think what we see so beautifully for the individual is how much they appreciate that investment, but also that they're being able to be selected for a journey like that does a lot for an individual, because then the individual then goes back into the workplace and is able to make shifts, make changes, with at the end of the day able to impact an organization. And we're able to measure things like that. We're able to run projects where we work closely with organizations and we say, give us case studies that you're just not getting to, give us research areas you're just not getting to, let us help build capacity within your people to solve for some of these issues. And so it's a beautiful cycle of not only giving back and sort of almost creating that bond within an organization, but the relationships, the networks, the feeling valued as an individual is huge. And I think we cannot overstate that enough, because what it does for the person, what it does for their view of their career and where they want to be and what they want to, the kind of value they would like to add back into the organization.
And, just to add to that, so, I mean, moving from being satisfied as an employee, one of the points that the benefits of investing in human capital they mention here is up to 54% of workers said that the career advancement opportunities are more important than salary when looking for work. So not only does it, increase employee satisfaction, your retention rates, as a company, you kind of look at your retention rates, and that's also being so influenced because, programs, for example, that you're putting together that are really getting people to kind of go, oh, yeah, I matter in this company, so I'd rather stay.
Absolutely. And I think it's so wonderful to see organizations that have that in place, where as an individual, I can see there's a journey for me. And I can see where I am now, where my gaps are, and be able to, find my place along the journey. And we're also seeing with organizations that come to us that don't have that figured out. So really part of the work that we do is help them put that in place for for their staff, because as you say, it's about building that retention, but it's building the right kind of retention, and also just that overall satisfaction. Because if I'm given the tools, I'm that much better at what I want to do. If we start building that capability of that continuous lifelong learning. And I think that was one of the trends that came up, something similar like that. We can't stop. There's no sign of stopping anytime soon. When we speak of technology, coding, blockchain, all these things are starting to kind of come into our space where we thought was so far removed from us. It's not anymore. So it's about the more we encourage that, and the more we encourage organizations to bring that culture within their teams, it's just amazing. And people stumble across things that they didn't know they had a passion for. We've got one person who's been on one of our journeys, Kevin, who's now so passionate about blockchain, out of not having been exposed to that. So there's beautiful kind of knock-on effects. But I think from employee value creation, it's absolutely huge.
Yeah. I mean, Gallup also mentions in, which is a little bit alarming, like only 32% of workers are feeling engaged at work. And, to the point that you speak of being a whole, a whole individual, how important do you also see that? Because I think, developing employee engagement is so paramount at the moment because of lockdown, because we're stuck behind a PC. Like, when you do this, like, is that a consideration? Like, what is your sort of thoughts on how do we get these guys engaged more?
So I think that's definitely a consideration. And what I've found has been so huge, and this is something you'd be able to speak to as well, but the role of coaching in all these journeys. As Regenesys, we put a strong emphasis on the coaching component that follows the learning journey. And for me, what has been the most crucial element to these learning journeys has been that coaching component, because I'm able to work on the application of the learning, but I'm also able to say, guys, I'm struggling with this. And I'm also able to get the support in a seemingly kind of environment where I'm so separate from people. I'm able to create connection again. And I think that's been so important. If we're engaged, if we feel connected, if we feel supported, we're that much better as a whole person. So I think in terms of these learning journeys, as much as they're giving people the opportunity, and people are actually grabbing that time for themselves, I think people have realized I need that time for my development, but also supporting them with that kind of coaching element. It's creating that engagement. It's creating connection, not only between the coach and the individuals, but also between themselves again. Because I can't sit and have a coffee with you. I can't meet you at the water cooler anymore. And it allows me that space to do that again, and to build connection, build relationships that I somehow wouldn't have. We're back in the workplace. I now know someone in a completely different department, and I'm able to sort of start that beautiful collaboration, which I might not have had open for me in this beautiful way.
I've recently had the opportunity to also interview the head of marketing at a really big insurance brand, and actually at Hollard, they call her the brand mama. And one of the things that they've done is implemented Nancy Klein's thinking methodology. And what was beautiful about that is she said, even when we're having a regular meeting at a regular basis, we take the 5 minutes, we take the 10 minutes to go, how are you doing? How are you? How's your day? How is your family? How's, breaking it down to the person, and not just having a moment of work constantly happening. And I think, when you speak about the coaching as well, and I think that's also what we've done so well on the work that we've done, is we've taken that moment and brought it back to them as humans, as like, how are you doing? And like, how are you functioning? And I remember with the resilience, for example, little exercises we did in showing up for yourself and building those boundaries and putting boundaries in place. And knowing that you're important enough to kind of go, no, it's 5 o'clock, it's 5:30, it's 6 o'clock, guys, I'm with my family. I can't, little things like that really start showing that, employees are still, you don't have a business if you don't have strong employees, so if you don't take that into consideration, you can't really achieve what it is you want to achieve.
And that Nancy Klein, I mean, it just blows my mind how she spent I think it was like 20 something years trying to understand the optimal environment to think. And if you look at some of those components and look at your workplace environment, like, are we really giving people that time? And as you said, and I don't think we are. I don't think we're allowing optimal thinking. You know, we want people to be innovative, we want them to be creative, but the environment we're creating is just shutting that down sometimes. You know, so exactly to your point about the coaching, Kevin, it's allowing people to have that space to say, I'm not okay. Like, just let me meet, like, and you know, you've always been able to meet our participants where they are. You know, I'm not okay, I'm battling with this and that. And I think creating these moments of connection have allowed that, because I think before the world went mad, it was expected to always be okay. It was expected, no, I'm fine, I'm good, I've got it, you know. But when we were able to suddenly be in people's homes, you know, see a different dimension, children running in the background, dogs or whatever, it was also a moment of realization, like, okay, I'm not okay. I'm working till 9 o'clock, like you say. I need to put in a boundary, but I'm feeling like this, you know. It's those little changes where people are able to step back into that power, but also be acknowledged from where they are, that just create the most beautiful shifts for me. And I think that's the kind of goosebump moments for me.
Yeah, you know, I agree with you. I mean, before we started the show today, you and I chatted about the absurdity of where we find ourselves, right? And you were mentioning someone was looking for a dog groomer and there was lutein.
I was just like, you know, that whole week when the world was going mad, you know, some people were still posting, like, looking for a dog groomer, please help. And I was like, you know, is this the time to be asking? You know, it's just crazy.
And that's what's so weird about you know, having this conversation. Like, even though all of this is happening, you know, we speak the point about resilience. It's like South Africans have a knack or a nature or just a way about them that we kind of get on with it. We kind of, as much as it's sad and as much as it's difficult a lot of the time, there must be something said about the fact that we are just capable of getting on with it. We are a nation of doers.
True. And I think it's also understanding what that looks like, because I think if you Google any kind of future skills, what is required besides the technical kind of skills that are there's a lot on EQ, but there's also what comes up time and again is resilience. And I think, you know, when I came to you with that component for a particular learning journey, I was like, people talk about resilience all the time. They want us to be resilient, but what does that look like? How do I know I'm resilient? And yes, as South Africans, we've got that, but what is that? And how can I apply it, not just in times when, you know, the world's coming, you know, apart, but how can I build that? How can I sort of safeguard myself? We talk about future fit kind of skills, but how can I harness that? How do I know what that looks like? And I think that's been incredibly important for me, because so often we'll latch on to something like, you know, the pivot for the new normal or something, but I don't understand how that translates for me personally. So being able to access it and create that environment of trust between, you know, where I can be vulnerable, because some of that, like Nancy Klein stuff, the work on resilience, the stuff that you do is so powerful, but it creates a little bit of uneasiness because I have to look at myself, because I have to go through that introspection, which is not always easy. So it's important that we create this environment for people to be able to go there and get those skills that they need, even if it's a bit, you know, they might feel a bit battered or bruised. I'm all for the manageable discomfort side of it, because, you know, we know it creates the best kind of results. But I think, you know, that's so important, is to know that we have it in us. It's there. It's just about how do we, you know, like a muscle, get it stronger? How do we know, instead of perhaps responding in one way, I can draw on that, you know, as a more appropriate response sometimes.
Absolutely. Robyn, so to close it off today, what does the future hold for Robyn? Like, because I mean, you've done some incredible things, and I've been so fortunate to be part of some of that. And So like, what are you putting together? What's new? What's coming up? What's amazing?
So much amazing things, because I think, you know, as a, you know, self-confessed people watcher, people are going to continue to fascinate me, and I'm still going to continue to try and understand, you know, how I can help people on their journey. So a lot of work being done around really helping people through this next phase. A lot of great technology kind of programs working on how to get, you know, things like coding, data science, machine learning in a more accessible format for people, because those are the skills we want to go to, and anyone can learn those. Anyone can harness those skills. So how to break the kind of barriers around that I'm looking at. But also we see from an organizational need perspective, I'm seeing a lot in terms of the specialist journey, the role of a specialist as opposed to the role of a leader within an organization. And I'm so thrilled to be part of that kind of revolution, because we focus on leadership with, yes, it's important and we need to be there, but we have some incredible specialists that come through with those skills. So what does that journey look like for them as well? So that's what I'm busy with.
Fantastic. Robyn, then in just summary, like, so what do you want people to take away from today's conversation? And then where can we get hold of you? Like, how do we connect? Because talk about, you know, working on that network.
Network intelligence, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what I want people to take away with is never stop learning. Never stop learning. Start your personal development plan, but start it where you look at each of your intelligence. What do you want to do for your IQ? What do you want to do for your EQ? And write a list like that. Just start one item for each one. What do I want to do for my physical intelligence? Do I want to start jogging every Sunday? Do I want to start preparing healthier meals? Write a personal development plan. Now is the time. The world is going crazy. Now's the time to regroup and focus on yourself and find your own personal development plan. Start learning. I mean, learning is so available in great content chunks. There's great MOOCs out there which are freely available. Find a podcast that inspires you, but create the journey that you're going to start following. And day by day, work on it day by day, one item at a day. That would be amazing. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Robyn Shirley, or at Regenesys Business School. Thank you so much, Kevin. I feel like I could carry on for another 4 hours. But,
we always have really good conversations.
Yes.
That's awesome. Like, I'd love to have Robyn on the show. It's like it's a necessary one. But thank you for making some time for us, and thanks for chatting today.
Amazing. Thanks, Kevin. I loved it, and hopefully I'll be back soon.
Chat soon. Bye-bye.
Great, Kevin. Cheers.